Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do need a motion to adopt the agenda, and I will bring your attention to the addendum to that agenda.
Move to adopt.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with the noted addendum. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 3.0, approval of minutes from the December 18th special meeting and regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve those minutes, and I think the two new board members, since they weren't in attendance, don't have to vote on this, is my recollection, because they weren't there
All right.
to witness the
That makes
meeting.
sense.
And so I think it's just the five of us that were there. So all of us that were there, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants. Normally, we would have our bills and warrants presented at each board meeting. Because we are meeting earlier in the month, starting this month, our bills and warrants for this month's meeting are not available. So we'll be doing those kind of in an arrears format going forward.
So they'll be
It's-
available
yeah.
at the February meeting.
Yeah, so the ones we typically do in January will be available in the February meeting. So we will not have any bills and warrants tonight to review and discuss and approve. Okay, 5.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Mr. Schultz, you're already on the agenda, and so this wouldn't include you. Is there anyone else who's not on the agenda that would like to address the board? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to item 6.0, special presentation by Chris Schultz concerning an indoor tennis facility. So if you go ahead and come forward and take a seat up there. And well, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you'll just have to excuse me, I'm a little nervous, but, so I'll just give you some background on me. I grew up and I actually attended Washington School from K through 5th grade, and I my family has played tennis in the community. I mean, I had an uncle that played in the 60s, my dad played in the 70s, and we're all state competitors. So that's kind of, my family is really a tennis family. But, so for the tennis, the Washington School lot, I've just always had a dream of having an indoor facility in the community. And I really think that would be a good place for that lot, because there's, that ward is kind of lacking something recreational or for the community. And I really think that the tennis community in Parsons and with the high school here, they deserve, I think tennis may be one of the more winning sports in our school, in the history of the school. Anyway, there's different grants and funding opportunities, as well as a lot of help through the USTA. And my thoughts were that possibly you as a board could help us to operate as possibly a non-profit community tennis association and be able to run this facility as such. We're still in the very, very starting stages of this, but I've done a lot of research and I've contacted a lot of people, and I'm finally starting to get some people to call me back from the USTA that say that they will help through the whole process of everything to get this going, to help with the community. And they said that even on that deal, that for indoor facilities, there's a lot more money to be given to help with indoor facilities as well as outdoor facilities. Now, our outdoor courts at the park are they're in pretty rough shape. They just resurfaced them last year, but I tried to go to the city and get them to address the court issues underneath before they put the surface on it, but we went ahead and threw, I think, $50,000 or something towards resurfacing them, and now they're already, I mean, there's one court that's not even able to be used for tennis this year, and so that pretty much cuts us out of being able to host any SEK regionals or tournaments like that. I really think that if we do this right, we won't have to put the maintenance in on the courts. It'll be, if we do build them right and make the courts with the post-tension concrete, that it'll be minimal maintenance. You know, maybe every 5 to 10 years you'll have to resurface them, but I think they'll last a lot longer, as well as have another area that we wouldn't have to rely on the park tennis courts to play tournaments at. And this would be more like the school tennis facility, which I was kind of thinking something like the Washington School Viking Tennis Complex or something like that, for the name of it. But, so there's a lot of things that I was wondering if we could include, like I even was considering including tennis in the curriculum for like K through 8 and bring every class in the district to there for a class. And that way we could start to kids playing young and include it in that, because we're having a hard time getting numbers out for our high school tennis team. Like we didn't have enough to fill a full team last year on the girls' side. And so I really think that if we could include tennis in some way, shape, or form in the, in the PE curriculum to start them young, that maybe we could get some more people interested in playing tennis. And if you got, which I don't necessarily, I think you guys could still own the property and oversee everything at the facility, but I'm looking for, ideas and recommendations, and I'm just wanting you guys to say no. It's a big no. If it's a no, that way I'll quit putting so much time and effort into it, because I've really been putting a lot of hours into this thing, trying to get people on board and to get help with it. And I've went to the city too. The city is offering to help, which they should, because their facilities at the park are getting almost obsolete. I mean, they're pretty run down. And they have said that there's a grant of some sort of grant for communities and parks, close to $900,000, that they were hoping that we could get, that I think could help with both spots if we would partner with them on that. I just am really looking for some input and.
Well, we probably have some questions before we can give you any input.
Oh, yeah, and that would be great.
So the first question I have is, so this would be an indoor tennis facility. How many?
Be indoor and outdoor. There would be. I was thinking, and I was wanting to include pickleball with it also, because that's really big in the up and coming thing. I was hoping possibly 2 indoor courts, which would also, that would be able to have 8 indoor pickleball as well, and then 8 outdoor courts there also.
Okay, so 2 in, 8 out.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And so would, not being an expert on the surface that tennis is required to use, would either the indoor or the outdoor, I guess mainly the indoor, be available for any other sports other than pickleball or tennis, or would that be a?
It could be used for, I mean, you could always use it for basketball or, and I've seen places where they've had put turf over them for special occasions and play, like let people have football practice or soccer practice on things like that if it's not being used at that time.
Okay, I got you. All right.
There's multiple uses that we could use it for.
Batting cages and pitching mounds, stuff like that too.
Yep, I would be okay with that too, definitely.
How many courts do you have to do, like, isn't it 10?
I think you would have to have 10 to host a state tournament, but I've been talking to the state as well, and they said that as long as we had 10 in our community right here, because you could send a couple to the high school, because the high school courts are the best courts in our town right now. These high school courts are way better than the ones at the park. So those 2 and the 8 at the deal would be plenty to host a state tournament.
So they all have to be outdoor for Kansas State High School Activities Association?
Not necessarily. If we happen to get rain and we had the tournament scheduled, they would try to bring everybody indoors and start playing. All the matches would get moved indoors so we could get it played. So that would be another. That would probably make it to where they would want to have it at our facility every year. If we had something like that, it would be a game changer.
So what is the process of getting cost estimates for all of this, or
I've actually
have you
got
already done that?
2 companies that are supposed to be with us, kind of with us to look. They both wanted to come and look at the actual site and see and give us ideas on that. And one is Mid-American Court Works, and the other is Multi Sports Build, and they're both pretty local. One's out of Wichita, and I think the other is Kansas City area. But the one with the Multi Sports Build, if you look up online, you can see some of their projects they've done. They've done a lot of tennis places around. I mean, they're very, very good tennis court builders, and they're certified in building those kind of facilities.
Do you have a ballpark cost of what an actual outdoor and indoor court would actually cost?
They're thinking that outdoor courts are around $50,000 a court. The indoor facility, the total project I was hoping would be under 5 million, but that's kind of where these guys come into play. They're supposed to get, because the grant that the city is possibly applying for has to have architectural drawings, and it has to have estimates from an architect. So that's kind of why I went ahead and I was able to get a hold of these people, so I could kind of, because I was hoping to have kind of those estimates. He was supposed to meet me last Thursday, but he had something come up and he didn't end up making it, but he said we'll reschedule this month for sure.
How many courts are there in the Joplin Indoor Arena on Range Lane?
The Joplin one had 4, but now they're down to 3 indoor, and they've only got 6 outdoor, and they've got 4 pickleball, I believe.
Okay.
They took 2 of their outdoor courts and made them into pickleball courts.
At the city park, is there 4 courts?
Here,
Mhm.
at the city, there's 6 here at
6.
Parsons, yep.
It was, I kind of understood from some of your materials here that there was funding that could be accessed then. And you mentioned they had a lot for indoor, USDA.
Yeah, they're at the bottom in the little asterisk on that deal that says more funding available for indoor. And then I've actually got these 2 names of people that are the head of this kind of stuff through the Missouri Valley, which is a section in the USTA. And this one guy, they told me that he is like an advocate for Parks and Recreation, that will see the project through to the end, and he'll make sure, that you get in the community and get it working. And so I haven't got a chance, I just got these numbers, I think it was the end of last week, so I haven't got to reach out to them yet. But it's been kind of, I work a full-time job, and trying to run 2 different jobs and all kinds of things, and trying to do this in my spare time has really took a toll on me. But it's really starting to kind of come together. Everybody's started to return my calls, because I had left a message with the Missouri Valley over the holiday, and they called me back right after, the first day after the holiday, and gave me some names and numbers. They were really, really helpful.
So you've created, I saw you had a Facebook group and you're
I
trying
did.
to
I've
create a
tried-
board of directors.
I've tried I haven't had the turnout that I really was hoping for, and that's why I almost would hope that you guys could maybe be the board for that thing and help with that, because to be honest, most of the people that came to my meeting was some of my family. I mean, I got 3 or 4 other people, but most of them were my family members, which is good. I want them to back me too, but I just didn't get the community people that I thought might show up. I just thought that I might get a few more, I think we had 8 people at the meeting or something.
Well, a lot of your old-time tennis families are gone.
They are. They really are.
The ones that I remember who, won the city championships year after year after year, male, female. Those people, a lot of them have passed away, or their children have left.
Yeah, and
we
they've
had some-
moved.
But that doesn't mean that those families wouldn't, because a lot of them were very wealthy families that lived here, and they would probably be interested in assisting with this financially.
Definitely, and that's kind of, I've thought about reaching out to a lot of those families, and then we're even considering writing letters to professional athletes and different people, telling them kind of what we're planning on doing and getting help with that. And I've had a lot of, parents and stuff that said they would help me with that kind of stuff, which I think other community, like independents, and I think they would even help, have fundraisers and stuff. Pittsburgh even maybe possibly help with something like, just to get, because there's a lot of people that I've met a lot of people through tennis, and I've got lots of relationships through tennis, even as far out as Florida and California. And my uncle actually worked for the USTA in Mississippi for quite some time, and he's getting ready to retire from there. But I just think that there'd be a lot of people that would help with this whole process if we could just get the word out there and get the ball rolling on it. I think it will kind of snowball out of control, and hopefully a dream could come true, maybe.
Do we currently offer tennis at the middle school?
We do.
So that's that's somewhere that they could practice indoor.
Oh, yeah, and even indoor, if it rained, they wouldn't have to cancel practice. I know that there were a lot of people that were upset with the Washington school thing, and I just felt like, maybe we could commemorate it in the Washington, like the Washington school, Parsons, Viking tennis, maybe it would bring some closure to some of them people that didn't want that building tore down or something, and I mean, I went there all through the years, and Washington school was a big part of my life growing up, but I feel like that lot, needs to be used for something good for the community.
So Chris, you made a presentation to the city commissioners, correct?
I have.
But that was in regard to adding on to the
At the
Forest Park courts, and then they told you there actually wasn't really enough room.
They said
And there
that
were some floodplain issues.
Exactly.
So that kind of nixed your plans there. I thought they had mentioned that there was another spot other than Washington School that they may have recommended to you.
At one time, there was a thought of a complex going out by Walmart or somewhere out there, like some kind of complex. They were hoping it could have football, tennis.
That was the Shawn Hill.
The Shawn Hill thing.
Football thing, and that
That's the
fell through
soccer
too.
fields.
Yeah, and the soccer field, yeah.
That was $250,000 that was donated. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and you made a good point about a lot of kids aren't going out for a lot of different sports for I don't know all the reasons, and we need something to energize this group. I like your idea. It would be nice if you had someone like Gene Bicknell on your side, a big money donor from Pittsburgh, or someone to kind of rally the troops to back your idea up with some more plans like we had for the Shawn Hill football complex.
Definitely.
And that took us almost 4 years.
Yeah, which I was hoping possibly, before my youngest kids get out, that it could possibly be a dream of mine, that this could be accomplished. But I'm really hoping that it could just be accomplished. I don't care on the time frame or anything like that. I just would like to see this thing through, because the truth of it is, if we don't get something like that, I mean, I know tennis is kind of, a lot of people think of it as a higher class sport, but really I was brought up, my grandparents lived across the street from the tennis court. We were pretty low class growing up, and we played tennis. I think that if we got more people playing tennis, that it would help the whole community altogether, and it would keep some of the better people in the community would retire here and want to move back here to retire if we had that to offer, because if something like this doesn't come about here, eventually whenever I retire, I may possibly move away, which it's been my dream to live and die right here where I'm at and live here.
So have you talked to like Ariana Bennett at the Rec Commission, or?
Oh yeah, I stay in contact with them really
Laura at
frequently.
the city?
Oh yeah, Laura's working on grants, and she's behind it 100%.
Okay.
Even Daryl and Debbie have really been
Okay.
for everything. I mean, everybody has really had a positive outlook. They really like the idea. They just I don't know that they want to put the effort in, and so somebody else is going to have to put the effort in order to get it going. But if we show them a clear plan, I think it's going to be approved for sure.
Mhm.
And you're right, some big money donors like that would be wonderful. And I'm hoping that we can cut costs possibly like with dirt work and different things like, dirt work, the plumbing. I would donate most of the work on the plumbing of the facility, stuff like that. Anything I thought that we could do as in-house, our own, we would try to get it done, and I would just donate that. And I'm hoping to, like pouring concrete, I'm hoping I can get some contractors local that I know that they would help donate the time. If we could afford the concrete, that they would donate their time, and then we would have a plaque at the facility that said, work donated by such and such construction company, this and that. That way, everybody would be identified as helping with this thing in whatever way they would help.
I like your idea. It just, obviously, we can't make a decision tonight.
Oh, I know. Oh, and I didn't expect you to. I just mainly wanted to be told if I'm all right to keep. We've also got a deal with the area community foundation where we could put money if people did want to donate. And the USTA deal said that they would help to advertise and have digital marketing for that kind of thing to get it out there. I think that would really help.
To create an endowment?
Well, at the area foundation, we've already got or the city did give me, I think, approval to start the deal with the community foundation, so people would have a place to put money. I just think if we could really get it out there where, like on Giving Tuesday, people could get, whoever wanted to could give, because a lot of those big money donors do look for things like that to donate to.
I like your idea. I just So I'm just thinking this through. If we owned it as the school district, like all the things that you're saying about like comping plumbing and comping contractors, like we wouldn't be able to do any of that because we're not a nonprofit. So like for Curious Minds, that's how we have a parking lot. That's how we got our dirt work. I mean, that's how we got most of our building is from people in the community donating, but we're not a nonprofit. So I don't know I don't know how feasible it would be.
It would take planning.
Definitely.
It would take planning. So, and it would probably take a number of years, just like the fields, the soccer fields took 4 or 5 years to get that accomplished. Started with some architectural work and some drawings, just so that we at that time were able to look and see, okay, where could this fit best? And so that was the real starting point. And there was someone who said, I'll give you $500,000, whatever was given to the rec center.
Yeah.
There was a substantial amount of money, and so there was that commitment, and then they started with some architectural type drawings. And those are the two things that kind of got it kicked off and moving.
Yeah, our plans were this big, and then we had to pull it down. So you have a Plan B and a Plan C?
I do,
Okay.
kind of like if,
I'm sure you
if
do.
we wanted to, I even possibly thought about if we got the building there, me privately owning just the building and giving, because whenever I do retire, I would like to give tennis lessons 40 hours a week and have a place to do that. And then the facility around there would kind of be the recreation or you guys' facility, the outdoor courts and everything, and then privately own the building or something like that. Or possibly work with the city, because if the city and the rec center wanted to own it just like they do the other recreation buildings in town, we could possibly do it like that. I think that there's a community tennis association that you can start in your communities, and that flyer that I gave you, like if you guys would go to the USTA and just kind of click on it and see what all things they offer, they've got all kinds of different things they help with. They help with growing tennis in your community like you wouldn't believe.
And so maybe the best place to start would be to have a group like that, if you can form a group
Yeah.
like that, that's willing to make the commitment.
I think that's
to
what I
then-
tried.
Yeah.
That's what I've really tried, and I just haven't got, and
Gotta be
that's why I'm.
persistent, Chris. Gotta be persistent.
It is. You do have to be
You gotta
persistent,
cold
and I'm
call
so
people.
skeptical. I've even started second guessing myself if there was enough population in our community to justify this, and I just don't want to see it shot down.
I definitely
But-
think there's enough, I mean, when we do high school tennis lessons, like the high schoolers do, I mean, like what your son does they're full, like all the elementary school students love, I mean, our kids took tennis. They love it, so I definitely think there's interest, and our population is, I think we could support it. I mean, I think people would utilize it, and tennis is a lifelong sport, so.
Definitely. I mean, I think it would help with all kinds of things in the community, just getting, but we've just got to get the parents, to get the kids out, to get them involved. And that's why I was hoping that we could, include it in the curriculum where we could start them kids younger and they would start building that tennis foundation as kindergartners and first graders. And by the time they were in the 6th grade, they would be good and they would be wanting to do it themselves. And we would have some quality players by then. And I think that would really help on all aspects because it shows that kids like that play tennis, they got higher grades, they've got better communication skills, and they're more likely to succeed. I mean, there's a lot of benefits of tennis in the community.
I'll give you a suggestion, and maybe you already thought about this. When I go to the rec center every day, I meet up with the pickleball players so they can share the court. They're pretty assertive and aggressive, and they have a lot of energy. Have you talked to any of them yet? Because they could see pickleball, tennis, indoor, all the things that you said, and that would be a good group to have back.
It is, and I have talked to a few people in our community that play pickleball, and they're on board with it. They really like the idea. I just think pickleball is so up and coming. It's pretty new that if we had that to offer, I really think that it would help see the whole thing through. It would help the tennis. I think we may have more people interested in playing pickleball in the community than we do tennis, and so it would really help the whole thing
It's
out.
kind of like our football fields, flag football, soccer, it's
Yeah,
multi-purpose, okay.
which, you know, they say that people that retire from tennis, they retire to playing pickleball.
That's right.
So,
Any other questions from Mr. Schultz here?
I know that this city of Coffeyville is in the process of redoing their courts finally. After so many years, they have not had any tennis courts that could be played on. And I heard that they've got some funding through the Blue Cross or something like that, and they're getting a ropes course also. And I tried to get in contact with them on how they were getting their funding, just because I thought it would be another avenue just for some help with funding on it. But I'm not opposed to any kind of grants or any kind of scholarships or funding opportunities. I even thought about, holding during the summer or any months that we could play, I would offer play the coach or whatever, and people could come play for, to donate money to play. Just any kinds of little fundraisers that anybody could come up with would help. And like, if we were gonna do this, we would try to get the architectural drawings, and we'd set up at Katie Days, and we would set up at every community function with a booth that had where people could come up and look at it and donate to it or ask questions and just keep everybody involved and in the know in the community.
I think the key is just finding the right people to be on your committee to get that kicked off and to get started. Because it's definitely a process.
Is it a possibility that some or all of this board would want to participate in the committee or be the committee? I mean, I know that's a lot to ask.
Well, and there may be individuals on the board that would be willing to do that and could reach out. I don't know that as a board in its entirety, we would be ready to move in that direction.
We could participate initially just to kind of see what, from my perspective personally, and just thinking about the board and what the visions that we would have, that indoor facility would have to be multi-purpose for us to really be on board. It would need to have a lot of purposes other than just tennis, so that, and it could be larger than what you're envisioning.
Yeah.
If it had multi-purposes.
Like it could include a pool.
Yeah, it could include a lot.
Well, it's just a city block, but that,
Yeah.
but
Need a pool.
I understand exactly what you're saying. That's.
Yeah, it's.
And also, with demolishing Washington and coming up with that green space, the board did that in recognizing that we only have 51 square miles in our school district. And so we can't build or do anything or lease or rent anything outside of that 51 square miles. So we're really pretty well landlocked. And so when we're looking at the future for buildings, for school buildings or different kinds of centers, I mean, that's something that we would need to consider as well, because it is a nice, full city block. So.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we hear you, and I think that there's a positive initial response to it. It's just, for us, it all comes down to money, because once we get it built, then we've got the maintenance of it, we've got the utilities of it, we've got the caretaking of it. I mean, we're pretty building poor right now. We are always dealing with air conditioners, we're always dealing with roofs, we're always dealing with leaks.
Yep.
And that's just, it seems like a continual problem we deal with, and it's costly.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're all cognizant of that.
I understand.
Yeah, so that's, and we would have to, we own that, and we're not probably willing to sell that because of the issue that was resolved, and so I would envision that we would have to be in control of that property.
And that would be 100% fine. I know that the USTA does offer, if you build a facility like that, they offer insurance, they offer all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Just so you know, they offer, we'll have to look on there, but there is a lot of things they offer for helping with this.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I think you probably stay your course, and then if you have any updates, good or bad, please contact us, let
I
us know.
definitely will. If it's all right, whenever I contact, or whenever these two companies come and take a look at the sites, and kind of give me their input, I would like to be able to tell you guys about it, or if you guys would like to have somebody come from the board, whenever they come, I would definitely give you guys a call and let you send somebody from the board out there with us if you'd like.
Yeah, and if you'd call the district office, someone from our maintenance department would be happy
Okay.
to go with you as well. That's always good. They know,
Oh, definitely.
the property and those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
In addition to any board member that might want to.
Yeah, because I'm sure we would have to do like a compaction study or some kind of core drill before anything could be built on it.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Hey,
for
thank you for
materials.
giving,
Time.
thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Your passion is appreciated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 7.0, the technology update, who Mr. McGuire is ill, so we'll table that until the,
So February?
next meeting. So 8.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, well, we've got two new board members tonight, so I want to welcome Leanne Hunter and Kayla Whiter-Green. They've both worked in the district and been, Leanne was you were a para and a teacher and an administrator for USD 503, and so now she gets to be a board member, which is great. It's a good opportunity. Kayla taught for us for a number of years and is now working on a grant program with KSDE in Greenbush called Educate Kansas, right? So she's been a lot of places, to a lot of different schools, and knows a lot of good things. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Then at each person's little spot is your new Parsons Vikings coffee mug or cocoa mug. There is hot cocoa that's in there and a few other snacks. It is Board Member Appreciation Month. And so we went through and looked, those of you that have served on the board prior to this year, a total of, guess how many years? We added up everyone's service. You're not going to believe it. I didn't believe it.
Well, Jeff has like 14 years by
It's
himself.
50 years. 50 years of service to a school board with with the five of you that are here. So this is not a paid position. This isn't always an easy position. And I really appreciate your willingness to serve and to read the materials and to do the work and do what's right for Parsons kids. So good job. Thank you. Okay. So now we're moving on to my regular report. Okay, so January 2nd was Strategic Planning Day for the district. We had professional development. We started with breakfast that morning. Everyone came together, and I want to show you what we went over, okay, just so that you are aware. I have my little clicker. I'm going to go through it. Okay, so here's the strategic plan. We got started writing this right before COVID and met a couple nights at the middle school and then went around and then COVID, and it was just kind of crazy. Remember that? It was, okay, but there were 5 key areas, which it's hard to see, but this is in your board packet each time, so if you have a hard time looking, you can see. And so what we did on January 2nd, this expires, these plans aren't forever, we looked at, here's what we've actually done. So the first part of that is student supports, which is really about the teaching and the learning. We're schools, that's why we're here, the academic piece of that, and how we best support students. And so these are some things that in those 3 or 4 years we accomplished, things like the individual plans of study, they are now all in place, and they're digital, and they're really nice. And kids are working on them. They're taking quizzes. They're going places in the community. We now have student-led conferences at the middle school and high school level. We've just done that in the past, in the spring. We started that year before last year. Beginning next year, we'll do it in the fall and the spring because we have better attendance. Academic advisor position, that's something that the board added that is new. Done a lot with social emotional learning in the last 3 years. We have that STAR recognition, the Silver Award. We're one of the top 18 in the state. That's part of the Kansas CAN. There have been gains in student efficacy, and now we have a counselor in every building. Moved some folks around. And then here are just some pictures. I told Jeff we have to have pictures on our PowerPoint. Our kids doing those things. Our grown-ups. Yeah, so there's our Silver Award. We're taking a tour. Got our counselors in there. Next thing was communications, and this was really a big area of growth for us. We've gone to a platform called Aptigee, which no one's really knows what that is, but that's that ThrillShare. That's the app. You can put everything Parsons in your pocket right there, and it gives you all kinds of things. Access to our website, our social media things. We've had record growth in our social media in the last 4 or 5 years. And all of those things are now managed by the district. We used to just have random people managing random pages, and then someone would leave the middle school, and then no one would have access to anything from the middle school before. We've gotten that all lined up. We do thrill share posts, and so that's where our teachers and staff post the things happening in their classroom. So there are over 100 districts that use this in the state of Kansas. A lot of people use thrill share and Apogee, and we're the second highest in regard to posts, quality posts. And the only people that beat us were out in Mays, and it's a much bigger district and a lot more schools, but we're still going to give them a run for their money this year. So elementary communicates with Dojo. We have Remind in place for middle school, high school, which is new. We've also added Colleen's position, and so she does some public relations and some news things for us. We've done a lot of communication, done the surveys, and we actually use the feedback that they give us. That's the point in doing those surveys, so, and for students and staff both. So here's just a few ways that we communicate and kind of what that might look like, which there's not a lack of information. It is out there, for sure. So the next thing is community. We've done some community engagement with stakeholders and some civic organizations, positive contacts, website, partnerships, presentations, touring businesses, making those connections with nursing homes. That's an area we can continue to grow. Here's some pictures of our kids and staff doing those things as well. Personnel, and that's the recruitment and retaining qualified staff. We have now gone online. Before this strategic plan, in order to apply for a job in Parsons, you had to come to the office and get a piece of paper because we didn't even have a PDF that was fillable online. And so now we have Talent Ed. You can go and click. Anytime you can go to the website and look at all of the vacant positions. You can click on that and apply. It quickly then sends an email to whoever that department head is or administrator so that they know, hey, you have another person that's interested in applying. It's made it a lot easier. We do the same thing now. It used to be that if a teacher were sick in the morning, they had to call the principal, and then the principal had to call the sub-clerk, and then the substitute clerk would literally call people on the phone and ask them in the morning. We don't do that anymore. It's now all online. If you're going to be sick or you know you have a doctor's appointment, you can put that day in online. It contacts those substitutes, and then they can choose the jobs that they want to do. And then we have our full-time subs that the board is committed to hiring, and so sometimes, we make sure those are used as well. We've also got nursing staff in each of the buildings, which is really important and has worked really pretty well. So, and then professional development. So here's some pictures of different things. So there's Mrs. Keel with her little treats for Thrill Share. Each month I send those. Matthew Peak does those drawings for if you turn in a qualified post, your name goes in, and you might win a pizza and a drink. So there's some good professional development going on. We've done the letters training this year, and there's some other links for that. This is the big one, really, and we had that huge influx of ESSER money. Nobody wants to have COVID. That was kind of a oof, but it did give us a lot of funds that we had not and would not have otherwise had. So that really helped with some infrastructure things. Something we had said was, let's go 1-to-1. And we remember we had a plan, a 3-year plan to get it implemented. Well, no, we did it. The board did it in what, 9 months, something like that. Well, March. And then when we started the next August, we had all the devices. So however many months that was. We've gotten those key card sensors. Intercoms are now out. HVAC, boilers, windows, the roof. We finished those soccer fields. Washington was demolished. There have been a lot of things accomplished. I think a lot of times we look at the plan and then it's time to come up with the next plan, but we don't ever stop and think about all the things we really did accomplish because we move on to the next thing, okay? So there, everywhere you look, there's somebody in blue doing something there, which I think is really a lot of progress has been made. Here were some highlights, that Silver Star, Star Recognition for high school graduation, Challenge Awards, our success rate exceeding the confidence interval, some scores, those were good things. And then these are things that aren't necessarily bad, that are just the reality of kind of where we're at. chronic absenteeism is something out of the 7 SEK school districts we're working on. We have a lot of economically disadvantaged. We have a high percentage of students with disabilities. We have a really diverse population, which is a good thing as well. Each of those things provides different opportunities for growth. What does the data say? Out of those 7 SEK school districts, here's where we rank, just so that you are aware. And then where do we go from here? So okay, we know all these things. The non-negotiables for the next plan, we have to have academics, obviously. I mean, some kind of student supports, we're at school. So we've got to do some of that. There has to be something for infrastructure, because you can't teach and learn in a building that's falling down with a toilet that doesn't flush, something that's leaking on your head. I mean, we just have to be realistic with that. And then the other thing that really needs to be an area that's non-negotiable are those Kansas CAN standards. That's the way the state assesses us. So if that's the way the state says, this is how you're going to be judged, we need to make sure we're incorporating those things somewhere in our plan. Here were some other areas, possible focus. And when we had done other surveys and talked to different people and looked at other people's strategic plan, these were all things that were included in theirs that we thought, oh, well, that chronic absenteeism, we knew that would be a big one. And then we went over what the process actually was going to look like when we met with certified staff that day. And so we went to their buildings and we met with each staff for about 45 minutes. And we did a good job of staying on schedule. Jeff was
our handler that
He
day.
was. He was getting me to zip it and keep on moving. So, but we were able to visit with each building, because we started in the morning and we did the whole overview that I just went through with you. We did all of that with them, and then we said, we're going to come and visit your individual buildings. But before they left that day, that morning, just that little morning, what we did was a little word wall. And so they got out their phone and did a QR code, and they were supposed to say, what do you think 503 does really well? Because I think as we begin to plan, we need to look at the things we do really well. And that doesn't mean we quit doing those things. Maybe we tweak them. Maybe we do something a little bit different. Doesn't mean we change it. It just means these are the things that as a group, out of 102 certified staff, these were the big things. The word support is on there 12 times. So, and the bigger it is, the more people that responded that was something that was good. So I thought that was really, it was affirming. And then what are areas and things we need to improve on? What can we, because there's always work to do. And I think it's important to say we've done good work, but we need to continue to work. Communication, student accountability, attendance, absenteeism, attendance,
Indoor sports facility.
yeah, indoor sports facility is on there. I think they were talking more along the lines of football. I don't know. Or maybe swimming. It did come up, but who knows? Attendance, a lot of things regarding just things that we could continue to improve on. So then what we did, we left it at that. We celebrated what we'd done. Then we came to their individual buildings and we just talked. We just listened, really, to things that they thought their building needed, that they wanted to work on, that were important. Things we were good at, we needed to continue to do. Things we needed to get better at. And then we asked them 4 questions. Here's a list of things. Out of these things, what do you think is the number 1 priority? What should be the number 1 priority? Then on the next slide, it was what should be the number 2 priority? And the third, and then the 4th one was what is it that we didn't include that needs to be on here? Because there could definitely be something, absolutely. So this, I'll give you copies of this in color in your view on Friday so that you can really look at it. This is just kind of to review real quickly. But really, the number 1 priority, things that came up, 30% basically of the group said, we got to do something about attendance and absenteeism. And then 21% said, well, what about an early childhood development? It came up at Lincoln. At Lincoln, we've always said we don't have any space. We're running out of space. Leanne can attest to that, having been there. They used to say, we're just going to have to build up. There's just, someone said, what about Washington and an early childhood center? Where the pre-K if we built a facility and the pre-K was there, you know, Head Start could join that facility, we could have parents as teachers, all of those, so that came up, so there were quite a few folks that were interested in that. And then recruitment and retention, and if you went on to the second and then to the third, it was chronic absenteeism. Something else that came up a lot was family engagement. And you know, if families are engaged, kids are gonna come to school. It's one of those hand-in-hand type things, I think. But I did think it was good information. And so now what we're going to do is this. We're gonna meet with classified staff. So coming up in the next 2 weeks on the 17th, so we're gonna have 2 opportunities. They can come at lunchtime, or they can come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then January 31st, we're gonna have a parent meeting. So we've had administrators and building leadership teams identify families that could participate, would be willing to participate. They have reached out to them and said, hey, would you be willing to participate in building the next strategic plan? So we'll have those meetings the end of January, beginning of February. And we'll have time for community members. We're gonna do it a little different this year. We're gonna have the evening times so parents can come, and we'll have daycare and we'll have food like we've done historically. But we're also gonna have times during the day where if someone could just sign up for an hour, just what hour would work best for you. That way they could give their time that way. So those invites and calls will be getting sent out in the next week. That's kind of our plan, and that's where we are. Okay, so that's what we did. I don't know how to turn this thing off. Oop, I don't know what that is. Just like that. Okay, any questions about that? And there'll be a time for you to fill out a Google form too, you know, and to look through all of the data. Because once we've collected it from all of these people, then we're gonna bring it back to you and say, here's out of however many people we spoke to, here's what they think is important. What do you think? So that you can provide feedback and direction as we move forward. So, what else? So January 2nd, that's what we did. Building principals told you what else that they did. We also had everyone have 2 hours worth of work time in their classrooms, which doesn't seem like a huge deal, but it is a big deal, because as you're starting a new semester, you're getting, you know, new seating charts, new grade books, those kinds of things at the middle school, high school level. And that was something in surveys that came back. People said, give us some time. And so we did that on the 2nd as well.
And that had great feedback from the teachers. And being one of those teachers, that 2 hours would have been precious. So good call, everybody.
And they
Teachers
used
were
it.
very appreciative.
They worked hard. They did. So, and it's also nice to get to go to a grown-up lunch. Like I can go out to lunch and sit, you know, that's different. Teachers often don't have the opportunity to do that, so they had some time to do that day as well. So it was a good day. January 11th, we have a special board meeting. That's this week. That's going to be at 5:30 at the high school in the community room. And that's going to be the time where what we'll have we'll have a little table with the principal and the instructional coach, and they're going to have their assessment data, their achievement data, and you're going to go in groups of 1 or 2, and we'll rotate around so that you get to hear and visit with and ask questions of and really look at the data, take a little dive into each building's information and kind of how they assess and how it works and what it looks like for them. And is it all perfect? No. Are there plenty of areas to grow? Yes. But they have a plan to do that, and so they want to share that. And there'll be food. So come at 5:30. We'll start the meeting at 5:30, have the food kind of go around. We should be done by 7 o'clock. Each group has about 10 minutes, 15. We've got a little schedule. Okay? So that will be on Thursday of this week. Then on Monday, there is no school in honor of Martin Luther King Day, and so the district office is closed that day as well. February the 12th, there is no school for students, but that is a professional development day. That's also our next board meeting, which will be here before we know it. Then the following Monday, on the 19th, it's President's Day, and there's no school, and the offices are closed. So I think that's all that I've got, which was quite a bit, I know. So I appreciate you listening. Any questions?
Okay, thank you for that update. 9.0, once again, the Tri-County meeting will, since we changed our meeting date, will follow our monthly meeting date, so that means we'll kind of be in arrears on that as well. So we will hear about the January 10th meeting, hopefully, if we have a representative there, at our February meeting. And so we'll move from 9.0 to 10.0. So 10.0 is our organization of the officers of the board, and then also our representative for Tri-County. And so basically, the way we do these is we listen to nominations, and then we go from the nomination list and who's willing to accept the nomination, and then we vote on those nominations. And so we typically start with president, and so I guess at this point in time, I will open the floor up for nominations for board president for the coming year.
I'm going to nominate Jeff Cleary for president.
Okay?
Second.
Second.
All right, well, I haven't accepted the nomination.
You're not given an option.
So anyways,
Dude, I feel passionate.
okay. Are there any other nominations for the president's role? Okay, hearing none, then we've got a first and a second. And so we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of my being president for the next year, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you for your confidence in me. So now we'll move on to first vice president. So just to kind of give some history on this, up until about, I would believe it would be about 3 years ago, the president, main role of the president was to, well, one of the main roles, consistently main roles, was to meet with the superintendent on a monthly basis to set the board agenda for the board meeting. And so approximately 3 years ago, we made the decision to move to kind of a combo plate for that task. So the president and the first vice president meet with the superintendent each month to set that agenda and to cover the agenda. Now, any board member can ask for something to put on the agenda at any point in time. So it's not like the president and the vice president have a monopoly on that aspect. It's just we review the board agenda or the meeting agenda that's proposed by the superintendent. If there's things that are missing, if there's things that we want to delay until another meeting, we have a discussion about that. So at this time, we'll just entertain nominations for the first vice president. The first vice president also leads the meeting in case I'm ill or can't be here for some reason to lead the meeting. So there is that added benefit as
I
well.
nominate Lou Martino.
Okay, Mr. Martino, is that something you'd
Yes.
be interested in doing? Okay. Any other nominations for first vice president? Okay, is there a second for Mr. Martino's nomination?
One second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for Mr. Martino to continue serving his first vice president role. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now, second vice president. Second vice president doesn't really have an overly significant role, to be quite honest. Just fills in for the first vice president if there's any need to do that. So if, for example, if Lou were sick, when we needed to review the agenda, then the second vice president would fill in for that. If Lou and myself were both gone from the meeting, then the second vice president would need to run the meeting. So other than that, there's not a lot for the second vice president's role. Is there any nominations for that position?
I'll
Julie, would you
nominate
like
Julie.
Sure.
Julie? Okay. Any other nominations for the second vice president position? Okay, Julie, would you be interested in serving in that capacity?
Sure.
Great, great. Okay, so then it's been, is there a second for that? I couldn't remember. Second, okay. It's been moved and seconded for Ms. Legler to serve in the second vice president role. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Motion carries. D, appointment of representative and alternative on the Tri-County Special Education Board. And so this individual goes to the Tri-County Special Education Board meeting on a monthly basis. This next meeting is in 2 days, in fact. And then it's been our history that all of us, other board members, can serve as alternates, because it's quite common, if our representative can't serve, we have to go around the table to see who can serve, because it's typically not on the rest of our agendas to be at that meeting. So is there any nomination or any volunteer for that Tri-County Special Education Board representative?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, so we have a volunteer. Ms. Hunter has indicated she would volunteer. Is there anyone else that would like to volunteer, or anybody else that would like to make a nomination?
I'll nominate Leanne for
Okay.
Tri-County.
All right.
And I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a first and second then on Ms. Hunter, and then the rest of us would serve as alternates to serve in case she cannot go to a meeting. She would, typically, you would just let Lori know, hey, I'm going to not be able to go to next month's meeting or something like that, and then she would contact us to see
Okay.
who else could fill in your position. So, and then your job in that role would be to come back to the next board meeting and just share the agenda and then share what was discussed. Very brief report. Okay, so we'll take a vote then on the Ms. Hunter's Tri-County Special Education Board representative. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. So now we'll move on to 10.1, action to accept donations to schools.
And this, like the bills and the warrants will be a month behind. And so
Okay.
those will be in your February board
Okay.
packet and agenda.
All right, so we've got a unique meeting here where
We do.
we'll have all of those things caught up, and we'll do them on a monthly basis commencing next month. So then 10.2, action to appoint a board member to the 24-25 calendar committees. Traditionally, we've had one of our board members serve on that calendar committee. So is there anyone that would like to make a nomination or volunteer to serve on that committee?
I'll volunteer to do that.
Okay. Anybody else that has an interest or wants to nominate
I'll
someone?
nominate Olivia.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, so we've got, Ms. Lyons has indicated her willingness to do that, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. 10.3, action to appoint board members to the 24-25 negotiations team. Traditionally, we've had 2 members of this board serve on that negotiations team, and so the process is those 2 individuals typically meet with the board before they would meet with a negotiations team for the PNEA. And then we would discuss some of our positions on certain topics, discuss just in general the types of things that we want to push or not push for discussion at that negotiations team meeting. And then they would meet with the negotiations team, come back to the board, and so they're kind of the liaison between the board and that meeting with PNEA is what these 2 individuals serve as. So we'll accept nominations for that, or volunteers for that.
I would like to be on that committee.
Okay, so we have 1 volunteer for that. Any others that would be interested in serving in that capacity?
I'll volunteer.
Okay. Anybody else that has an interest? Okay, so we have 2 volunteers, and so we'll take them in order and we'll vote on each one of them. So anybody would like to, well, let's, do we have, I think we can go ahead and vote on volunteers. I don't know that we need a first and a second, but I guess we can go ahead. Anybody like to nominate Ms. Green for the position? I think we can go ahead and move in that
I
capacity.
nominate Caleb.
Okay, is there a
Second it.
second? Okay, so all those in favor of her serving on the negotiations team, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then Mr. Martino, same thing. Any motion for him?
I nominate Luke.
Okay, Ms. Lyons, and then Mr. Ray is a second. All those in favor for Mr. Martino? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, all right, so Mr. Martino, Ms. Green will serve as our negotiations team this year and our liaison for those conversations. Okay, moving on to 10.4, action to approve recommended CASB policy updates.
Okay, so these have been, we had first reading last month. Was it last month, first reading? These things came out, so there were a few updates or changes that they have. I would recommend that we, okay, so really the one we need to look at is food service to determine, because we have community eligibility provision, and so we don't necessarily have to have any policy about meal balances, because we don't have any meal balances. However, there is, current policy says $20 charged, and if you're more than that, you get an alternate meal. Well, I think the $20 is fine. I don't think an alternate meal works very well. I think it's better just to give them a reimbursable meal. But we're not going to need to do that until, what year did I say? In the VO, do you remember? Like 20?
4 more years or
4
something.
more years
Yeah.
after this. So that is just, you know.
I'm not certain we've always followed that policy of giving them an alternate meal anyway. so-
And we haven't. It's really been up to building administrators, to be
Yeah.
honest. And I think some gave them a cheese sandwich. That was not something that I ever did as a building principal. I just felt like, because little kids don't understand, they can't help that their parent doesn't pay the lunch bill, and why would they have a cheese sandwich and an apple? We didn't do that. They ate what everybody else ate, and we just, a lot of times, staff just chipped in and then paid their bill.
My kid might have rather had a cheese sandwich.
It might- I mean,
Exactly.
but maybe so, I don't know. But not now, the food is good now. Our participation rates are up and it tastes good.
Can we wait and make that determination? In a
Yeah,
later date?
yeah,
We don't
we-
know what food's gonna be costing, what
We don't know what
will
food
be
will cost.
included.
We can update these policies, and then at that point in time, then we'll revisit it. That's not a
Exactly.
problem.
Right, yeah, that isn't a problem with the food service one at all. The other one, well, so there's
We have
the
a
whole
separate
list.
line item on the
Yeah, we
collection.
have a separate one on the collection. But if you go through and look, some of these are recommended, and some we really need to have for federal, so that we're following the law, so that we're in compliance.
Yeah.
So that evacuation's an emergency, that's if it were helpful. And I do think it would be helpful. Jeff and I looked at that, and I do think that policy would be helpful. That food management, that's, if we prefer, and we can say, not the food management or the food plan, because we're not there. That's not applicable to us. The pregnant and parenting employees, that's new, we need to adopt it as written. Uniformed service leave, there've been some changes to that, but in order to make sure we're compliant with the law, that KSB's recommended that. Release of a student during the day, that's recommended. We think that that would be useful. Misuse of medication for students, I think that would also be useful. And then giving them their own medications, we think all of those things would be useful. So with the exception of the food service, EE food service, I would recommend that those KASB policies be adopted.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Martino, do you have any thoughts?
We've been,
Just a clarification again, on the
Okay.
uniform service leave.
right?
If an individual leaves, is on duty for a year or 2 years, and comes back and has a supplemental contract, that supplemental contract has to be offered to that person again. Even though you may get rid of that particular position, you have to offer them some kind of a comparable position. You can't just say, hey, that position's gone, and we're not going to pay you for the following year.
Right. What
So I just want to make sure that's clear, because that was a problem in another district.
Right, KSB had, what they said was, uniformed service members enjoy broad job protection, even pure at-will positions,
Right.
or substantially equivalent job assignments, are guaranteed upon return from deployment. Supplemental positions are unique in that they are awarded a year at a time, but they believe the same protection applies to them as would apply to any other hourly employment. So that's the way in which they understand it, that's the way in which that's written.
I'll second that motion then.
Okay, moved and seconded to adopt those policy update recommendations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 10.5, action to update the policy DP on collection procedures.
And we may not need to do that, since we did not adopt policy EE for the food service management, because this is the one that said, if you write us a bad check, the school's going to charge you $15, and then the school's going to call you and get another check, and if you do it twice, then we don't do that. We just turn it back over to the bank. So that isn't, the schools aren't in the collection business, but that was specific to food service balances, not other balances, is my understanding, is the way in which I read that policy.
So perhaps we don't need to adopt this policy.
No, we don't,
Okay.
since we did not adopt policy EE.
Okay.
So it can just be,
So does there need to be action?
There needs to be-
Action to get rid of DP, because right now we have a DP?
right now, we have a DP, however, we won't ever use the DP because the meals are all free. When we go to people having to pay for meals, when we don't have community eligibility anymore, then people may have to pay. Then we're going to need to look at DP and say, okay, is the school going to charge when I write a bad check? How many times, those kinds of things.
So this isn't specifically necessarily tied to the food, it's just food is primarily what this was used for?
That is correct.
So perhaps I'm still unclear. What are you wanting done with DP? What is your recommendation on DP?
So if we did not adopt the EE food service management change, right? We're just going to leave that for right now, since we have
Okay.
community eligibility.
All right.
So I recommend that we do nothing with this current policy, because it will not be enacted. If we have other bills that are due, that's covered under other policy in regard to collections with the Kansas Set-Off Program. DP is specific to food service bills.
So that'll kick in 4 years from now.
That is correct.
All right.
So you can just kick that can on down the road. I mean, really.
So we don't need to take
No.
any action on anything?
Not for
All
that.
right. I just want to make sure that we,
Sorry.
yeah, all right, okay, all right.
Okay.
So we're moving to 10.6. Now, this is our executive session, just to give current board, or new board members kind of the most recent update that the rest of us heard last month. So we used to have all executive session matters under one motion, and it's recommended by the CASB now that we have them under separate motions. And so we may have 3 or 4 different executive sessions now instead of just one. And so we'll go in order. So tonight, we have 2 potentials, and that is the personnel matters for non-elected personnel. And so do you have something under 10.6 that you would need to
So
discuss?
under 10.6, I do. I would say 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Or any of the board members have any things that they would like to discuss in executive session that would fall under the non-elected personnel exception to COMA? Okay. All right, so I think I'll entertain a motion then for 15 minutes under 10.6.
So
Make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception to COMA at 7:06 or 7:07, and then for 15 minutes, you said?
15 minutes, sir.
All right, to 7:22.
Yep. All right, thank you for that motion. Is there a second?
second.
Okay, all those in
Who's
favor
that
say aye.
include, by the way?
Aye. It will include all of us, the board and superintendent and assistant superintendent. Yeah, all right. So motion carries. So we're in executive session then for the next 15 minutes. Thank you. All right, we're back in open session here. We're moving on to our next executive session,
I'll have you.
which is item 10.7. And so I think we need about 10 minutes for that executive session. So I'll entertain a motion for 10 minutes on the topic under 10.7.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss exception related to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma at 7:23 until 7:33.
Okay?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We enter executive session for 10 minutes for the reasons stated by Mr. Martino, 7:23 to 7:33. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same people, both administrators in the room with us. Okay, so we are in executive session till 7:33 again. Okay, we're back in open session and we're moving on to 10.8, action on personnel.
Action on personnel. So we have some recommendations for employment. Fisher Woodman, Guthridge Title I aide, effective January the 3rd, 2024. Carol Bynum, van driver, effective January 3rd, 2024. Carol Bynum, bus monitor, effective January 3rd, 2024. Terry Overall, bus monitor, effective January the 3rd, 2024. I recommend you approve those folks for employment.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those recommendations for employment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries.
All right, resignations from employment. Mackenzie Manus, kindergarten aide, effective January the 19th, 2024. Doug Palmer, route bus driver, effective January the 4th, 2024. And Eric Spencer, Lincoln behavior support aide, effective January 19th, 2024. I recommend that you approve those resignations.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to approve those resignations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. No further action. This evening.
Amen.